Rewind to the mid-18th century, a time of intense conflict and political turmoil. The stage was set for one of the most significant upheavals in human history, the American Revolution. The backdrop of this drama was the aftermath of the French and British War in North America, where the British emerged victorious, seizing control of vast French territories. This conquest was not without consequences, as it ushered in a new era of colonial rule. King George III issued the Restrictions of 1763, aiming to organize a new American empire and shield the indigenous populations from colonial expansion into the West. However, these policies sowed seeds of discontent among the colonists, straining relations between the settlers and the crown. The triumph over French forces marked more than just a territorial gain for the British. It set the stage for a new era of colonial rule and the beginning of a political drama that would forever change the course of history. King George III, with the stroke of a pen, had set in motion a chain of events that would lead to a political storm. In the aftermath of the British conquest of French territories in North America, the king issued the Restrictions of 1763. His intentions were twofold: to organize a new American empire and to protect the indigenous peoples from colonial expansion into the West. However, these restrictions stirred discontent among the colonists, who saw this as an infringement on their rights. As if adding fuel to the fire, Parliament passed the Stamp Act of 1765, imposing a new tax on the colonies without their consent. This act sparked outrage, as the colonists questioned the British Parliament's right to tax them without their representation. It was a direct challenge to their autonomy and a stark reminder of their political subjugation. The seeds of dissent had been sown. The question of representation, of taxation, had begun to echo in the hearts and minds of the colonists. As the 1760s gave way to the 1770s, the murmurs of discontent grew louder and bolder. The relationship between the colonists and the British Parliament was becoming increasingly strained. The Stamp Act of 1765 had sparked a debate that echoed throughout the colonies. Did the British Parliament have the right to tax the American colonies when they were not represented there? This question ignited a spark of rebellion that began to spread like wildfire. The colonists' rallying cry became, "No taxes without representation." As the years rolled on, the cry grew louder, the resistance stronger. The colonists were no longer willing to sit idly by as they were taxed without their consent. They began to refuse to pay these taxes, openly defying the British Parliament. This act of defiance was a significant turning point, marking a clear escalation in the tensions between the colonists and the British rule. The road to rebellion had been paved, and the American Revolution was merely a step away. The cries for freedom became a rallying call, a spark that ignited the flame of revolution. As the sun of the 1770s rose, discontent had evolved into outright rebellion. The colonists, once loyal subjects of the British Crown, now found themselves questioning the very fabric of their political existence. The Stamp Act of 1765, the audacious imposition of a tax without representation, had planted the seeds of revolt. These seeds had now grown into a formidable tree of resistance. The colonists, fueled by the desire for autonomy and representation, began to openly defy British rule. They refused to pay the unjust taxes, a bold move that was the first step towards revolution. The once undercurrents of dissatisfaction had now surfaced as waves of rebellion. The echoes of "no taxation without representation" were now the battle cries of a revolution. The American Revolution had begun.